thing we have and kind of go from there. Mark, thanks. I know that we had a minute there. The time thing is so tricky. That's why I was like, hey, just 8 a.m. for you. Don't worry about me. 8 a.m. for you. I've checked it like 10,000 times. But it happens so often. I actually just last week totally missed a call completely. I had the wrong day.
Hmm.
Anyway, and it was in
Yeah,
my calendar and all the things. So
no problem. Yeah,
how
I know what it's like. Yeah.
how it works. So I really, it's so funny that we're having this conversation because I am new to you. I'm new to your information, your Instagram page. And maybe the algorithm is hearing me complaining about the yoga industry or something. I don't know. And it's like, hey, check out this guy. And there you were saying all the things that are on my heart and things that I'm seeing in the world. And interestingly enough, I have a friend slash student. She had done our teacher training 100 years ago in Mexico City, and she's living in Sydney. And we had spoken a week ago. I was like, I think it's time for me to like get back in the mix and do the things. And I saw your post, and the next day she wrote me and she goes, you got to check this guy out. And I go, I just wrote him, and he was so
Oh,
generous. I was like,
okay.
hey, do you want to do a podcast? And you were like, sure. Like it was nothing. Usually it's like, well, who are you and how many followers do you have and blah blah blah. And you were like, shut, whatever, it's all good. So I really appreciate
Yeah.
that. You were just so sweet and kind about it. So thanks for being here.
Pleasure. Yeah, I mean, in the end, it's just about getting the message out, right?
Absolutely. I think that, it's interesting for I just want to know like who are you? What happened? Like what is going on? I can only learn so much through Instagram and I have been snooping a lot, but just maybe if you can give me a little bit of backdrop and then we can kind of dive into some of the topics of like what's occurring now and what can we do and how do we keep things authentic, etc. But I'm just really curious about who you are.
Okay. I, well, I was fortunate enough, like I'm in my early 60s, but I was fortunate enough that, my mum was one of the first yoga teachers in Australia. And so I started when I was 5. She taught at home. We were an hour south of Sydney, kind of, blue collar working surf town. And she taught in the rumpus room downstairs. And as a kid, I just thought, I had something to do. Why not I just do it? And I started doing the classes. It was all women in those days. I mean, a man wouldn't be caught dead in a yoga class in those days, especially where I lived. And and it was a very complete system, I would say. The lineage that my mum learnt from was Kriya based. So we did our, lead in, our connection. We would do the asana, but we'd also do the pranayama meditation. We'd do some Kriya, the shavasana, the whole bit. And I just really got it as a kid. I don't know if it was past life, but I just got it.
Think so.
And
My
it's
other
been
teachers used to
lifelong.
say that.
Yeah, it's been lifelong
Yeah.
since then. I mean, it's very common now to have a mother that's a yoga teacher, but then it wasn't. And so it's always been a thread in my life. And I started apprenticing with mum when I was about 15 at the local hospital, and we did Down syndrome kids and asthmatic kids. And, that really elevated, what I could see the benefits were. And it was amazing. And I was hooked. I started my own classes when I was 18. I started, one of two studios at about 25. They both, kicked ass and went well, and I sold those, and I started getting into teacher education in 1996. And we started off with Heart of Yoga. I was aligned with Vinny Yoga,
Okay.
with Desikachar, Krishnamacharya's son. I spent a lot of time there.
Yeah.
At the time, I used to work as a guest therapist at the Mandram, and we were aligned with Heart of Yoga in our teacher training. But then we started, a 1,000 hour advanced diploma government accredited yoga. certificate. And I thought 1,000 hours was a good entry point. But now, commercial forces have pushed it down, 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 down till it's almost like you don't even have to show up. You can go online, you can do it in 30 hours and just pay $50 and now you're certified. So that's the opposite of where we are now. And then I niched down. I worked in elite sport. I worked with and traveled with, Olympic champions, gold medalists in swimming, and I then transitioned into surfing, which is, they're two of my things that I've grown up with, but travel around the world as I term myself as a mind-body coach.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then it's, but the through thread's always been education and always the lineage, always the depth, always the whole system. I've never compromised on that. And now it's transitioning online, and now it's transitioning into building a personal brand and working with the tools that we have now, whether it be AI, augmented reality, whatever. How do you use those tools and still not sell out, and still, how do you create small bits of content, get your message across, and still honor the depth, the lineage, etc., etc. And that's kind of where we're at with it now.
Yeah. That is so cool. So, I mean, I'm really inspired by that conversation about lineage because my story is somewhat similar, meaning that I started quite young. You were 5. I mean, my kids now are 10 and 12 and have grown up with the practice. But for my generation, I think, I was 19, 20 when I started, and I had come from a background of injuries. And so I had had all of this weird, like, hip stuff and tumors and surgeries. And I felt so young to be going through so many things. And I had a friend who said, "Oh, you have to try this yoga. It's amazing. It's $90 for 90 days for college students." And we were at Ohio State. And I remember being like pushing her away, thinking, yoga is so weird. My mom used to do yoga with her friends. Like, I just am so not into it. And she kept pressing me. And I think really what the convincing piece was the emotional healing that she was starting to feel just by all of this movement and breath. And so this is coming into the Ashtanga practice. And so when I went to my first class, I remember walking in and there was a class finishing and they were doing like lion's pose. It was the end of class. And I was like, oh my God, I am so out of here. This is the weirdest stuff. And she said, no, 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 no. That's the advanced class. Promise. Like, you've got to stay. And it was a modified primary series. The instructor was a former dancer. She was very serious. She was very rigid. But I remember it was the first time really in my life that I heard my intuition, my inner teacher. And we were in Janu Shirshasana A in seated tree pose. And the voice said, "This is so good for you." And I was like, "Ooh, this is so good for me." And everybody was barefoot. And the woman across from me had a cast on her foot. And, I was injured. I was all like really broken for a young woman. And I just loved it so much. And it turned out that the founder of It's Yoga, have you ever heard of It's Yoga? Probably not. It's Yoga. So it started in San Francisco in 1989. The main teacher was called Larry Schultz, and he had studied with Patabi Joyce for 7 years, who had studied with Krishnamacharya, one of those 4 major teachers, right? Desikachar, Krishnamacharya, Iyengar, and Indra Devi. And when I started practicing, I did the $90 and I loved it. And it healed me on so many levels to the point where I like went back to the hospital and got all of this metal taken out of my body, and just amazing things happened through this practice. But I think because I started knowing that I wasn't really competing, I couldn't compete. I just really needed the juice, the yoking of the spiritual vibes. Like, I really needed that. And long story short, I ended up in San Francisco and I did the training with Larry, and then we ended up marrying. He was much older than me. It was super scandalous. It was one of those stories you read about. Um, but I mean, for 7 years, we were together running around the world sharing the love of the practice. And he had a lot happening, like a lot of studios, a lot of trainings. This was like before Yoga Alliance. Like Yoga Alliance, I remember calling him and like asking him to be on their whatever it was there. He was like, "I don't want to be any part of this. Like, you can't, this is not going to go well. I just know it."
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and then he passed away in 2011, which was really surprising and kind of passed along the torch. And we did a really I think a really good job because at that point, what I realized when I was kind of starting to teach and share the practice was that as long as I was practicing, meaning like on my mat, breathing, moving, doing the drishti, doing the bandhas, all the stuff, I was good. But the minute I got off my mat and somebody called me or said something I didn't like, it was like all of that stuff bubbled up again. And so we started to really look at, for myself, how to shift that, like how to keep the system moving off my mat. Because I mean, how realistic if I want to do anything else for 12 hours a day, I have to get off my mat, at some point and stop the teaching and stop the traveling. And so we've really done, I think, a pretty good job at wanting to integrate the entirety of the system of yoga. It wasn't just about the asanas. It wasn't just about, how long you could stand on your hands or if you could put your feet behind your head. Like you can't exercise your way into an enlightenment state or, it's just like it doesn't work that way. Um, and then it changed so much. Like I kind of took a little hiatus around 2020. We were living in Mexico and it just so many things blew up in my life that I set it down. It was like 20 years I went hard and I stayed with my practice and all of the things, but being online and all of that. And now I'm kind of coming back into it going, what in the world? Like I have this woman who comes to my studio here and she got her certification online and she teaches at a local high school and she has like 20 girls at a local every morning. She's teaching them. I'm like, well, what are you teaching them? And they came in for a class and they had no idea what was happening. And I'm thinking, my God, they've been doing this every day for 6 months. What a gift for these high school students. But wow, that they couldn't find a qualified person to, because it's such a responsibility. And so I guess my kind of coming around is like, what do you see happening? I know you speak about it pretty openly online that's concerning you most, and what's giving you hope that the practice can sustain itself in today's world. I mean, I know it will, and that some of us are going to raise our hands, but it's just amazing to see the people come through my doors now. This is my third center here in this town, and just to watch people really kind of diving back into it, being really broken by what's happening out there, going through teacher trainings, being humiliated, and I mean, all manner of really crazy stuff I've heard. And now I'm like, okay, well, I'll just stay on my side of the street as best I can. But it was really healing for me to see someone that had a huge following that's on Instagram speaking the truth, and I'm sure doing really well for yourself. Like, what are we going to do about all this? And what do you think, what's going to give us hope for the future and what's concerning you the most? That's what I'm trying to say. Blah, blah.
Well, I think the message of the real deal yogis have always been saying that you are incredibly powerful, that you are a creative force. You're a creative force of God or Brahman or universal intelligence, whatever you want to term that term for God. And you are unlimited and you have potential and possibility beyond your wildest belief. And we have this science, we have this system that's very complete. It does include the body, it includes your external environment, but it also includes your subtle body, understanding the energy architecture, your breath, your emotions, your mind, and consciousness. And ultimately, it's about mastering the mind because your mind, your thoughts, is what's creating your reality. So if you want to change your reality, you've got to get to the thoughts. But before you get there, you've got all these steps to get there. You've got to prepare everything. And then when you get to the mind and you can have some mastery over that, you can go beyond it and you tap into this creative field that you can access. And so when people do that, they start to come back into their own self-governance. They come back into their own autonomy. They see that you don't actually need anyone to show you. You are the creative power in your life. And so then we've got the opposite side of where there's a whole part of the world that doesn't want humans knowing that they are powerful, that they are creative, that this other side is not needed. So they do their best to just turn it into a physical practice. And the physical practice, so let's say we have the spiritual and the physical. So we have these two sides. Mm-hmm. And a lot of us are, 80s, 90s, whatever, we grew up in that. And we knew that spiritual dimension was there. We knew that was a big part of the system. We grew up on reading the texts and the Yoga Sutras and the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedas and all that sort of stuff, and we knew it. We could still get caught up in the physical, but now, through social media and everything, a lot of it has been positioned in that physical sense, and because it's much easier to sell. Right? Sweat sells, handstands sell, abs sell, lifestyle aesthetics, all of that stuff sells. But when you remove the spiritual dimension from it, you're not creating deeper humans. You're not creating self-autonomous humans. You're creating better performing identities. And we're all just this character that's operating out into the world. And what we all want to live a better version of ourselves. But yoga's saying, well, if you want to live this better version, you can't do it from this place. You can't believe the same thing, have the same nervous system, have the same emotional range, and create this bigger, better version of yourself. You have to change your beliefs. You have to take actions that are congruent with that. And yoga's got all these tools to do it. But materialism's basically saying, you are the body, you are your job, you are this identity. The physical world is all there is. So let's start mastering the physical body. Let's bend into all these different shapes. But the yoga was never about the flexibility. It was about perception. It's about awareness. It's about consciousness, liberation from conditioning, our unconscious patterns. It's about a connection to something deeper than the conditioned self, than the physical. And the asana was never the destination. We know this. It was simply a preparation. Like, it's a preparation for stillness, for higher perception. It's a preparation for understanding the deeper mechanics of who I am and what I have. And this is the conversation that I feel like the yoga world needs. And it's happening. There's a willingness to happen. And if I, as a person that's been in the space for a long time, I think there's a call out. What I'm seeing in my social media is they like that I position myself there, and I'll call out what I see or what I consider weird, and at least we can have the conversation. But a lot of people are in alignment with it, and of course you get the people that get upset, but usually those people are aligned with, hip hop yoga or, beer yoga or, whatever it is. But it takes a lot of propaganda to get to a place where we believe that OnlyFans yoga and beer yoga and hip hop yoga is authentic, and people are willing to fight for that. Right?
Yeah.
It takes a lot. So, but everything's duality. Everything is that play of light and dark, or high vibrational understanding and lower vibrational understanding. And I think we're seeing a lot of that lower vibrational stuff that's been controlling the world for a long time, but now it's so prevalent, light is shining on it, we're seeing it, and that's the awakening. That's happening on the planet, but that'll happen in yoga as well. People will awaken to, you've just kind of been hoaxed in a lot of way, or you've just been convinced that the entry level is the is the destination, but it's just a vehicle to get you there.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting because I'm so in line with everything you're sharing. I mean, we talk about it so much in our classes, like all of the postures leading us to a place where we can sit in the seat of wisdom and connect to our own intuition and master this thinking mind that wants to take us in all these different directions. But it's almost like maybe this is too personal, but I find myself sometimes getting like discouraged that, very gratefully, I had two people come to one class just this afternoon. And, back in my days when I thought I was a big shot and before I got breast cancer and I had all this stuff happen, I used to get really frustrated that it was like, why do we only have a few people in these classes? I would have a class with 30 people and then two people. And then why is that person down the street? Like, this is where my thinking mind starts to loop. And it's like, you know, I know that person just had, a facelift and is like, all these things. And now she's like the biggest, baddest yoga person in town. Like, it's hard for me to, I'm super grateful for the people that are hearing what I'm trying to say and that will hear this podcast and hear it from someone else who's been around longer than I have. But I sometimes feel like it's a lonely show out here. And I'm like, intimidated in a way to get back out into the social media world because there is so much mirror on the wall. Who's the best yogi of us all? That has to do with what your body can do. And I'm sure you can do amazing things with yours and I can with mine. But it's like, so what? Are you kind to your mother? Like, how'd you talk to your kids today? What did you eat this morning? It's like those are the things that really matter.
Yeah.
It's like, so then what's stopping people from going deeper? Is it just that we're so addicted to our own self-image, we're addicted to our bodies? And how is it that you attract the people that really feel and desire the transformation that yoga is designed for?
Yeah, I mean, I did this post, right? This white one here. You're really flexible, so what?
Yeah.
And then next slide goes, seriously, so what? Because in the end, what it says after that is, well, do you have a regulated nervous system? Are you able to still your mind? Are you more powerful in the world? Is that power in the service of your heart? Are you able to connect into a larger potential? And if you tick that, now we're talking. And I think also, I know you come from that Ashtanga background. I taught Ashtanga for 5 years and, did limited stuff with Pattabhi Joyce. But in the end, we get there to let's say create a seat, but then those styles never do anything when you're in the seat. There's no pranayama per se, there's no meditation, there's none of that added on. And people aren't taught that. And I feel like we need to like add on and complete those systems.
Hmm.
Same with, Iyengar. People will say, oh yeah, but he was amazing and his understanding of, he wrote the whole book on light on pranayama, but he never taught it. Like he
Right.
never taught it. It was very rare that he taught it. And he only taught asana. Why? Why did Pattabhi Joyce only teach asana? Why? There's a question in that. Why did they only do that?
Mhm.
Is it because it was a marketing choice?
They didn't
Is it because that was the only thing that was accepted and what they grew up in, with Krishnamacharya and with the West, that the physical was accepted, the spiritual wasn't? Is it because it made more money, which it does? Is it because they thought Westerners weren't ready for it? Sometimes this gets thrown out, which I think is ridiculous because we breathe all the time. So let's talk about the breathing, right? It's what animates us. So we have to ask those questions, right? And you can come up with your own answers there yourself and whoever's listening, but it's got to be somewhere in those choices. Why did they not teach anything else when it's clear they came from lineages, they know the full system, but they didn't teach it? Why? Yeah. And maybe that's part of the problem, part of, if we add everything together, part of the problem of where we're at, because then it just got turned into physicality,
Hmm.
all of those systems. They give lip service to other stuff, but it's not there.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah. And so then the spiritual gets taken out of the practice. If you take the spiritual out, it renders it useless for what it's designed to do.
Well, it's just like anything. It's just like a workout, and you can do that and not call it yoga. You can call it Pilates or fit something. I don't know. What I really appreciated about my background with Larry was that he was really taken back by, that early group of Americans that were practicing with Patabi. And he was like, I was there when it got weird. He was like, I knew the moment it got weird when the people started kissing his feet and buying him Rolex watches and giving him Calvin Klein. And then he went and he got new teeth and it was weird. And they called Larry Schultz, my teacher, the bad man of Ashtanga because he got a gig teaching the Grateful Dead. So I don't know, you've heard of the Grateful Dead music. And so for the last 4 years of that tour with the original band before Jerry Garcia died, he traveled with them teaching them yoga. And that's when he started to modify the system because it was like, can't teach primary series to, this band when they're going to teach 200 or sing to 200,000 people tonight. Like, what if they get injured? Like, I'm not going to jump on their back and make them bind. Like, that makes no sense. So his approach really shifted when he kind of withdrew from that original community. And its yoga has always kind of been on the outskirts of the yoga industry. Like, I remember the first time somebody copied our manuals and submitted it in the Yoga Alliance. And I was like, oh, I know someone over at the Yoga Alliance. I'm just going to call them up and let them know what happened. And they were like, oh, sorry, there's nothing I can do for you. And I was like, but I'm presenting like this man is, we didn't certify him. Like he copied the cert, are you sure you don't care that he's now leading teacher trainings in Thailand? Like, I'm sure you care because you're the Yoga Alliance. Like, I can't believe you don't care. And they're like, well, he paid his dues. Like, legit, I have the email stream. And these were things that happened, in my whole adult life. I grew up, kind of in this umbrella of yoga. And then the kind of seeing what was really happening and how you could just pay whatever and you could train teachers. And so I think now it's just like really really keeping it authentic. I'm just trying to stay in my own lane and be grateful for the people that can hear it through me, and just knowing that for me it was so much more about the meditation, the pranayama, accessing that part of me that was always calm, and knowing how to get there when I wasn't calm, because I think that, so much of this is an act. It's like it feels very fake, and I'm just kind of, yeah, in this place of like, um yeah, just staying in my lane. Just staying in my lane. And I'm
Well,
not perfect by any means. Like I practice too, all the things that I'm trying to teach. I think that's the main bit is like practice what you teach and teach what you practice, you
yeah,
know.
you have to have the conversations because people might not like it, but it's very important, especially people who have been in the space for a long time. Like all the stuff around Patabi Joyce and the sexual behavior and innuendo. There was a lot of women that would come out later and say, "Oh, I didn't like it, but I just didn't feel like I could speak about it because if I did, I'd be ostracized," and that's not okay. And so if you can open the space for conversations now, you can have that stuff before it gets to that point. Or, there's a lot of conversation around, the video of Iyengar hitting students. That was very common practice, but it happened to him and it happened through the lineages and it was patriarchal and they would call it tough love. But at a certain point, where we get to a point where we go, well, that's not acceptable behavior, so we don't do that anymore. But at the time, if you say that, then you get kicked out of the organization. And that shouldn't be happening. There should be support around those things. And really an umbrella body like Yoga Alliance, we would think they've got a role to do that, but they're just a money collection agency as far as I'm concerned. They do nothing.
No.
I did see a post recently that the CEO, I think it is, she earns over 500,000 US a year in Yoga Alliance. And like I have no problem with money and I have no problem with people earning a lot of money, and maybe she works really hard, but she's getting that from the yoga teachers. What are they getting back? And that's the big question. And it needs to be asked, yeah, well, what are we getting back? Because
Yeah.
everyone says, well, I'm not getting anything. What are you getting? Well, I'm not getting anything. All right. Well, let's just not give our money to that. They're kind of irrelevant now. And people used to ask for that little logo. If you didn't have it as a teacher training, it was like you had to have it. But now you don't need to have those things. And like my conversation with like Iyengar is, my peers were going and, that hitting was happening. And I grew up in a place where if I spoke out, I got hit at school, I got shamed at church, I got rejected by parents. I'm like, I'm not going to any yoga where I'm going to get hit. Like, I don't need that. I'm already getting flogged enough. And, for me with Patabi Joyce, the stuff that I did with him, like honestly, I know people won't like it, but he was just really good at counting from 1 to 5 and 5 to 1.
Right?
That was all he did.
And
That was
all
it.
of a sudden it was like there were pictures on everybody's walls. It was like,
And people
what
were
is it
walking
in
in
the,
and kissing his feet. I'm like, what the?
it was weird, yeah.
And he enjoyed it.
That's the thing that's, I think, interesting now is like, I think it's almost coming full circle where we're really being honest with ourselves around like, what qualifies you? Is it the Yoga Alliance? Is it because you knew Patabi Joyce? Is it because you went to Iyengar and got slapped? Or is it because you've devoted your life to the practice and the entirety of the system? and doing your best to share it with others, making it less about a performance and more about a practice. And I think that's maybe where it's going. I don't know. Do you feel hopeful that, you know, it's kind of like this whole thing is kind of dying down a little bit and we have a chance to kind of I've had so many beautiful experiences in teacher training, but it always seems like sometimes the students, because they're so invested in the real world, they still want the Yoga Alliance, but they know that the Yoga Alliance isn't going to do anything for them. But so it's like, I feel like we want a foot in both worlds. And at some point, it's like, you're kind of encouraging me to let go of my Yoga Alliance thing. Every time I pay that thing, I'm like, oh my God. And it's expensive. It's like
I'm not saying
$800 or something. And I think to myself, I know. And they went crazy during 2020 with all the things they were doing. My whole community lost their mind. I mean, the whole thing broke in 2020 based on me not wanting to pay the dues to Yoga Alliance because I was seeing what they were doing, in the back end and what they were promoting too, at least here in this country, in the States. It was dark. It wasn't yoga. It wasn't about loving consciousness extending into the world at all.
Yeah, there's no reason to pay money because no one asks for it now. Like if you as a teacher go to a studio, no one asks, are you Yoga Alliance certified? They used to, but they don't do it anymore. They don't care. Like, do you have a certificate? Are you a good teacher? That's all they care about. I mean, Yoga Alliance, I'm sure when they started, they had great intentions
Yeah, just like
and
everybody, right?
to set standards and regulations and things like that. But of course, it's still a board of people that are deciding that. And that their agenda decides that for everybody else. That's what I don't like about those things. And even in the 200 hours, they're a big part of the problem because in the 200 hours, let's say 160 or 70 hours is face to face, but about 120 or 30 of those hours is physical because you have to cover the A&P, the asana labs, the adjusting, the sequencing.
Yeah.
If you take all of that, then it's about 120 hours of it. So basically, their certification is a big part of the problem that turned it into a physical practice because you had to cover all of that. And then the rest bit's just superficial, we throw on top,
Hmm.
pranayama or meditation or kriya. And you've also got to include ethics and you've got to include blah, blah, blah. So there's not much time left for anything
Methodology,
else.
yeah, all the things.
And that's a big problem of the physicality. But I think, yeah, I'm super, super hopeful because now we have access to a global audience. And as a global audience, voices cut through the noise. And if you're doing it from a higher vibrational way or a higher light perspective and you're communicating that, people are naturally drawn to it because we all want to move to that higher version, and we get drawn into it, and more voices are speaking about that. Well, one of the things that I'm really working at in what I do is to get the senior teachers to embrace the social media
Yeah.
because if they don't, then it gets harder to do that. And a lot of them are kicking cans down the street going, it's not fair. I want it to go back to the old way, but everything evolves. It's a new arena now. The goalposts have shifted and your knowledge, your depth, your lived experience, that got you attention before. And people, that was bums on seats and people would pay for you went to India, you spent decades learning, it was embodied and wow, and I want to learn from that. But now it's flipped. You've got to get visibility first in the attention economy. If you've got no visibility, doesn't matter how much depth you've got, how much lived experience you've got, you're just going to become a best kept secret. And so, I'm encouraging people to bridge the analog into the digital. And if you learn the digital, the game of it, then you've got an unfair advantage because a lot of the younger crew that grew up on digital and grew up online, branding and stuff like that, they're winning at the moment. They're rising above everybody else. They're seen as yoga experts. Very few of them have any lived embodiment of it. Some do, but most don't. So if you can bridge that in, you win. because people are looking for authenticity, they're looking for depth, they're looking whatever, but you have to learn to play the game. But that's the same in any business. You've got to play the new game. There's
Yeah.
no point kicking the can down the street because you're going to lose. And so I'm in my 60s, I'm doing it, you know?
Well, you're doing great. And I was super activated and I was like, okay, I'm going to take a deep breath and start sharing more, around I think I just felt a little bit generic. Like I want to be a little bit more positioned to say the things that I think I've been afraid to say. I just don't want all the negative feedback. I've had a lot of negative feedback. I was like fearless and then, things blow up and then now it's kind of I'm just a little bit more cautious and really encouraged um by what you're saying. I think you've done a great job. Thank you.
Yeah, I would encourage you not to be cautious at all. I would encourage you to take a very strong position because, and a lot of us, we grew up in a world where if you spoke out, if you had a voice, if you questioned authority, you got shot down for it. And I think for many, many people, certainly in my case, that there's, trauma in the nervous system around that. And but as you step more and more into your field, into your own power,
Hmm.
then and stake a flag around that and have a voice, you'll get a lot of love, but the nature of duality, you'll get the haters and the people that troll and whatever. But in the end, it just becomes water off a duck's back. For me now, it's simply like, thanks for your opinion, have a nice day. Like whatever, I don't care. I mean,
Yeah.
if it's 3%
Yeah.
of the whole narrative, and I couldn't care less anymore. When people, who the fuck do you think you are to say that? I go, I don't know, just me. Um, like, thanks for engaging.
Yeah.
Enjoy your day.
Yeah, it's like Mulabanda. Thank you. Got it.
Yeah.
I hear that. What just real quick before we finish, I wanted to know like what really shifted you to get online? Like what was it? Was it really the younger generation or was it just feeling like what you had to say really needed to be said and heard? Was there a specific thing that was like, okay, I'm just gonna get on Instagram and do this?
Well, I always felt like all the time I've been at the kind of leading edge. I could see where it's going
Yes.
in the yoga space. It always started things before they actually took off. And it's the same when COVID hit, I could see it transitioning online. I stopped doing 200-hour trainings in 2017 because I didn't want to be part of the problem. I didn't want to throw teachers into already a saturated market. I could see it going online. So when COVID hit, I'd already had 1,000 hours of our training converted online. So we were positioned very well. And I helped yoga teachers go online. And then seeing it going into then social media and algorithm based and now AI, that I just saw that was the progression. And now what we have to do is create personal brands. That's where it's gone. Before, you could stand through the authority of the studio or the training organization. So they held the authority, or you could do it through the lineage, right? They held the authority for you. The difficulty for most people now is now you have to stand in your own authority. Your own signal has to carry the authority. And if you've got all this stuff in you around, what if I speak out? What if someone doesn't like it? What if someone, like if you've got all that, it makes it difficult. But that's what the yoga's for. The whole yogic system is to get beyond that stuff. So go deeper and keep practicing because people are waiting for that authenticity. They're waiting for someone showing up real that understands the system and can communicate that in a very clear way. And I think now within a personal brand, it also means that you start going into, like I solve one specific problem for one specific person because I went through this major transition in life. I used the umbrella of yoga and this is what I did and this is how I did it. And when you do that, people feel understood. And when they feel understood, they buy. It's as simple as that. And a lot of people try to copy other people's strategies or what's working online or what's popular. It doesn't
Right.
work. It's never going to work.
Yeah.
You've got to just toe your own line,
Mm-hmm.
have your own voice, have your own expression of it, your own pathway, your own whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was my experience as well. I tried to do what was popular, what I thought worked, the trends and all those things. And it didn't. I'm like, why? How come it doesn't work for me? And not until I started talking about the yoga space and the yoga industry and what I saw it, then it started to take. And then, okay, let's drill down on that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's simply the process.
Mm-hmm.
And because the market will respond. A lot of people think, oh, it's the algorithm, it's the algorithm. The algorithm's not against you. The algorithm wants you to succeed. But it basically, when you post something, it shows it to like 10% of your audience. And if they engage, it'll go, oh, okay, this is valuable. I'll show it to some more. And if they engage, I'll show it to some more. But if that first 10% doesn't engage, then it goes, this isn't valuable. It doesn't show it to anyone.
Yeah.
So, and if you're just trying to do random stuff or you're not clear in your message or your brand or what you stand for, then the algorithm doesn't even really know. So it doesn't
Right.
know who to show it to. And
Right.
that's why it's important to get super clear.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you in the space? What do you stand for? What's in your bio? So people get there and they immediately identify. Then they check some of your content and go, yeah, that's me.
Mm-hmm.
And then you keep drilling down on that. Then because then you build a global audience. And once you've got a global audience, right, then people will travel from all around the world to go and do retreats, workshops, trainings in cool locations around the world. It's flipped.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. Right?
Right.
But in the flipping, you've got to stand in your own authority, and that's the difficulty for most people. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I help teachers transition with.
That's so cool. Really well said. It's it's almost just like, I'm a mother of two. I've, just there's so much going on. It's like sometimes just sitting down to actually do it is the is the thing. Like creating that space to really um to share, because I can, journal and share with the people in front of me. When it comes to putting it back online, there's a little bit of a block for me. But anyway, thank you for sharing that. It was really interesting. And I think you're spot on about making a stand, and really, why wouldn't we do that? If you have the experience and you have the expertise and you have the passion, you have the love to do that, then just do it. I hear that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
the way to be successful online, right, is I'll frame it in one way, then I'll frame it another.
okay.
But the way to be successful online, to really do well, is to piss people off, right? Right? And when you piss people off, then they talk about it, and then the people on the other side of it, they'll sweat, blood and tears for you because you're the person that said what no one else was saying.
Hmm.
The other way to frame it is simply to honor your truth, honor your lineage, honor who you truly would like to be seen when your life finishes, and then speak from that place. And when you speak from that higher
Hmm.
energy, light place, because light's just information, it's infinite capacity for information.
Hmm.
So when you speak from that place, you're often speaking at a level that people at another energy vibration, they just can't, it doesn't compute, they can't understand yet.
Yes.
But when you do that, then instead of going down and meeting them, if they hang around, the only choice they've got is to come and meet you.
Hmm.
And that's what it means to be with the guru, because the guru is going to make you super, super uncomfortable. It's going to challenge you. It's going to get you to face things you don't want to look at. But either you can run away and go, oh, that's not the right guru for me, and go find another one, or you stay. And if you stay, the only choice you've got is to come up and meet the guru, right? And raise your consciousness, raise your vibration. And I look at social media the same way. Hold that position. People will get pissed off. Cool, let them. They don't need to be there. They can go somewhere else. But if they do stay, or the people that are there, right, we all kind of come up together. and then there's people above me, and I'm moving up to them. And what I learn, I go a bit higher, and then they can, and we're just elevating everybody,
Mm,
and that's the way it works. That's
that's
where
awesome.
we come into this kind of enlightened area where we're exposing all the dark, and we're going to go through some big bumps over the next 5 years or so. It's going to be very difficult for a lot of people, and so we have got this great system that we can help people who have fallen off the treadmill, right? We can really
Hmm.
hold that space. But on the other side of it is this kind of enlightened to open up, bigger awareness place. And if you are already positioned there and serving people and helping people,
Hmm.
that's a great position to be
Hmm. I'm seeing too that the quality of the people, at least in my little community here coming in, they do seem to be more willing to do the work, the changing that has to occur, that it's maybe for a certain amount of time it was about, perfecting the poses or being the best teacher or having the most students in your classes. But now it's like I want to stop being triggered by this situation. Like that's what I'm feeling, that more people are willing to actually look at the practice of yoga and ask more from it. And I think that yoga is absolutely like ready and waiting for more and more people to go, yeah, I got it all. Have, open this book, read it, um, and try
in.
to implement those things in your life and practice it off the mat. And I'm really encouraged by that piece of it, that the more we're in a training now, and talking to people about their energy and how they're feeling in their relationships and how yoga applies and how to integrate it. That's the stuff that people seem to be really like activated by more than, putting their feet behind their head anymore. I mean, it just doesn't seem that important, and that's what's giving me hope, is that maybe there's not 40 people here, but the four that are really dialed in, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's another one of the shifts.
Mm-hmm.
People, like information's been democratized with AI. Information's gone to zero. There's no value in it. And for a lot of us senior teachers, that was our value. We had the information, we had the knowledge, we had the lineage, and people wanted that and they paid for that. But now information doesn't have value because you can just go to YouTube or you just ask AI. So embodiment is lived experience becomes the value, but more than that, people just want outcomes now. And I've got this problem. I don't care about the information. I don't want to do a mini course on just information. I want you to, like, how the fuck do I fix this right now? Tell me
Right,
what to do.
right.
And that's just in teachers in all industries what we have to do. And like how I'm doing my work now is it's just outcomes. This is what needs to happen. Let's do it now. Give me feedback. I'm going to tweak it, and we go into the next section and outcome, outcome, outcome. All of my information is online. If you want to reference it and go deeper, do it in your own time. It's there. Go to this page on this module, watch this video,
Mm-hmm.
and that'll enhance. But we're not going to talk about that now. We're just going to get you the outcome.
Mm.
And so if you're just still trying, if you're in the space of still trying to teach information, again, you're going to fall behind. It's changed. It's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
And so there's the shift,
Mm-hmm.
outcome focused.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just fix it, because that was my thing when I burnt out at 23 and I was learning all the advanced asana and I was playing with the third series of Ashtanga, but I had all that stuff that I grew up in where I did put my fire out and I became compliant. I flew under the radar. I became what people wanted me to be, and I could be anything except myself. I
Mm.
was super angry inside and rageful, but it was just internalized and I burnt out. And I did all the advanced asana, but it didn't change anything. It
Right.
didn't change any of that.
Right.
So I went, fuck it. I packed up and went to India, and then I found these teachers, these beings, these masters who carried fire very differently. And by the way, none of them were doing any asana. It
I
doesn't
know.
mean that they weren't doing it when they were younger, but none of them were doing it. None of them, any.
That's,
No,
yeah.
it was all mastery of the mind. It was all about power and coming in at the service of the heart. And so my thing was, what are they practicing that I'm not practicing? What do they know that I don't know? And I'm going to teach that.
Hmm. Yeah. I used to be intimidated in the trainings when like because I always felt like this was the direction I wanted to go with people and I always felt that they wanted the technique and they wanted to know where to put their hands and feet and we can do all that stuff and we do I think a good balance of that, but it is the mind mastery stuff. It's thinking, and reminding us that we're not really yoga teachers. We're yoga facilitators, we're practitioners, we're sharing what we love with our friends and our communities. But it's those guys in India that have really mastered it and really dedicated and devoted their entire lives to figuring out what was going on in here, and how it applied to what was going on out there. And I'm inspired. I do think that more and more people now are like you said, talking about outcomes. They want answers, they want resolve, they want to be able to make the shifts, they want to step into their best selves, they want to heal their relationships, and all of the asanas in the world are not going to do that. It's so much more than that.
No. Well, everything's driven from your beliefs. So the yogis, in every single text, they master the mind.
Hmm.
And here's a system to get to be able to help you master the mind.
Hmm.
But every text says that. But the modern industry doesn't focus on it at all.
And why do you think that people hide from this work then? Like why? Because I think that most yoga practitioners have heard at least once somewhere that yoga is a practice of disciplining the mind. That's the second, right? Now is the time for yoga. Yoga is stopping the way the mind turns so that you can see yourself. Because if not, you're going to just think all of your thoughts are real and start feeling and acting as if all of that is real, and none of it is real. So then what? But I think most people have heard that. But what's the resistance? Like for really going deep into this work? Because for me, it was like I just wanted it. I was so hungry for it. I loved it. But I find that I'm attracting people that are, and there are a lot of people that do, but there's still, that 35 people over there that just want their asses to look better, you know? But don't they want it? Don't most humans want it, or what's happening?
Oh, well, I mean, it's multi-pronged, but for one, we mentioned it before, most people that have done their yoga certification weren't taught any of that. And in reality, most yoga teachers, not all, don't get upset, but most, at the end of their 200-hour training, they're certified to teach someone's vinyasa. And then they're by default, the only place they can work is in the studio model. And then in the studio model, it's a business, it's dollars on seats. And so most dollars on seats is teaching the asana. And even if they were taught pranayama, meditation, kriya, they're not allowed to teach it. That's the problem, because the physical can be marketed, it can be measured, it can be controlled, it can be packaged, it can be sold. It's easy to market bodies. The biggest followers on social media are the people doing all the bendy, difficult arm balances and all that sort of stuff, right? The aesthetics, can be monetized. Performance. It's easier to display the performance, because the depth of yoga is all the invisible stuff.
Mm.
And how do you demonstrate consciousness on social media? How do you demonstrate bliss and peacefulness on social media? It's difficult, right? But also consciousness, as we alluded to at the beginning, is dangerous to the systems that are only built on materialism, okay? Because it shows that, well, that doesn't really mean anything, and you're actually creating it anyways, so you can create whatever you like. Because the moment a human being starts to realize they're more than a body, more than the conditioning, more than the social identity, more than than the consumption, then everything changes,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And yoga just originally pointed towards realization,
Hmm.
because beneath the personality, the fear, the status, the endless chasing, doing all the postures, there's simply awareness itself, a deeper intelligence, a deeper source. And humans have always searched for that. We're looking for it.
Hmm.
We're just marketed. Don't look there. Don't look there.
Yeah.
Look here, right? Don't look at that, right? Just look at this. My hands go. Right, look at the physical.
Right.
Right, don't look at the spiritual. The spiritual is going to give you the power. It's going to do everything. but commercialism says, no, don't look at that, just look here. Look here, look here, look here.
Hmm.
And the algorithm feeds it and all those sorts of things. So it's multi-pronged.
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it kind of made a little correction in my own mind around, this is what they've been given, and then it just kind of begs the question, okay, well, what are you willing to give, So yeah, I just have had so many people come through my world that, it was about the pants and the playlists, and that's what they learned in their trainings. They learned about how to make a great playlist. I mean, that's like a real thing.
There's many teachers that spend more time on creating their playlists than they do practicing.
Wow, it's a lot. I
It's
rem
it's 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 a reality, right? That's commercialism,
Okay. I
and
love that
commercialism's
distinction.
got the commercialism's getting to its zenith, right?
Hmm.
It's already collapsing and falling down. So when it collapses and falls down, what's on the other side?
Hmm.
There's also a lot of these yoga influencers, right, that have a lot of visibility, but not a lot of skills to go with it, and they're broke. They're not monetizing it. It's attention, it's vanity metrics, and they've got all this, but they're not doing it because they don't have the skills,
Hmm.
right? And if they're just going to teach handstands, well, that's a very commoditized industry because once you turn yoga into physicality, then you're competing with the fitness industry, then you're competing with all the different physical stuff.
Hmm.
And once something's commoditized, it's based on price, and price is just a race to the bottom. And that's why the studios are struggling because their prices are going down. What they pay teachers is plateaued, even going down. And then they go, it used to be Ashtanga, pay, $30 for 30 days, right? Then it went to like $20 for 30 days. Now pay $1 for 30 days. And that's commoditization. It's a race to the bottom. And then they hope some people will stay and pay monthly. But that's what happens when you take it to that place.
Hmm.
And so what is not commodity is you standing in your own authority, speaking from your own experience and solving a particular problem for a specific person, and then using the depth and whole system of yoga to frame that out into the world and just speak to those people. And that's the cool thing. Right now, we can use this and we can access a global audience and we can speak to the exact specific people that we want to speak to,
Hmm.
right? Your exact audience, and just speak to them. It's an incredible opportunity at
Yeah,
the moment.
it really is.
You've just seen your teachers, you've just got to learn like to play the game,
I know.
understand how to do that.
Kicking our feet, I think, just a
It's
little
not
bit.
that hard. It's learning a new skill. Like any new skill, yeah, it's difficult, but after a while, it just becomes, yeah, it's a new skill. I'm proficient at it.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, you've
it,
done great. Even when I texted you in Instagram, I was like, there's no way he's going to write me back. I'm going to get some bot that's going to be like, please, da, 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 da. And you were like such a real human. I was like, oh my God, he's on his own Instagram. And straight away. So I just was, it's so refreshing. I think you showed up in my feed at just the right time. So I just hope that I have that chance to kind of pay it forward too. And I'm so appreciative that you've kind of stepped through the portal and you're bridging in kind of the old with the new, and you've embraced it and done a really good job at staying true and authentic. And yeah,
yeah.
just kudos to you.
I would just say on that as well, like in playing the game, you have to understand how the game works. So when you're doing social media, there's kind of four buckets. There's the attract, nurture, position, and convert. A lot of yoga, senior yoga teachers, because we're used to teaching and lecturing, we just do the positioning, we show our expertise. And we put these amazing things on social media, like incredibly clarity around a particular system, and then everyone just scrolls and we're like, what's happening? Well, you're only speaking to the people that already know you. Right? You're not speaking to new people, and you've got to attract people, and the attracting is using the trends. And we go, oh, I'm not doing, but you put your message into the trend. Use the same music, the same format, but you put your message into it, because the attract is bringing new people, new eyeballs into what you do over and over again. It's like if you've got a studio, you've got to have new people walking in through the door all the time. So
Mhm.
you've got to attract people, and then when you attract people, then you've got to nurture them. And then you've got to say, hey, I was once like you. I go through this stuff. and this is why I respond to people,
Hmm.
because that's the nurturing part, that's the relationship. Yeah, thank you for actually thinking about me to do a podcast. I appreciate that. If it's possible, let's do it. Because I'm trying to get my voice out there, and thank you for helping me. And great, right? And then position yourself, show yourself as an expert, and then you've got to sell. You've also got to convert. You've got to sell, right? Because it's like anything, if you're not selling, then it's pointless. But then how do you sell? And so there's a formula with all of those things.
Hmm.
Like yoga, the full system, it's a formula. If you only do the asana, then you're not going to get what it was designed for. On social media, if you only position yourself as an expert and you don't do the other bits, you won't get the benefits out of what it could do.
Hmm.
It's always the same.
Mm.
Like finding experts that help you do those things.
Yeah. Wow, I almost feel like this was like a coaching session for me. Thank you. I feel so delighted. I'm super, and this is not my best time of day. This is usually when I start to like, crash for me. But I really am grateful that you were willing to start early and have this conversation. And I hope this is the first, and maybe we'll get together in a couple months and kind of regroup once I take some of this goodness that you've just shared and try and implement it a little bit more and pull my navel in and be brave. Going through hard things with life with the umbrella of yoga has been everything. I just don't even know who I'd be without it. And
Exactly,
I'm
exactly.
just so grateful and I want to support. Like I had a client in here today, just it was so powerful what can happen when someone holds that space for you to, you know, be your best self and make the shifts that you want to make in your life. I mean, it's such a gift to be able to hold that space for someone else and just knowing how much it's helped me. And people are, on the struggle bus. It's a weird world out there. Shit's going down. It's weird.
Especially the yoga teachers, yeah.
It's weird
Yeah. Are you
stuff.
on the East Coast, West Coast?
I'm in Ohio. I am on
Oh, in the middle.
I'm in the middle a little bit. I grew up here in this town and I moved back with my family a couple years ago. Kids go to school, same school I went to, and it's a sweet little community. I've got a big fat Lebanese family in town, all their cousins and uncles and aunts and all the things. And so it's kind of fun to, they've always thought I was such a weirdo my whole life, and now they're all, asking me questions and coming in and talking about, hey, my back is hurting me. What do you do for that? And I'm like, breathe, So it's been fun to be back in this place. And I've traveled a lot. I've not been to Bali. I've been to Thailand and Vietnam, and I lived in San Francisco. That's where It's Yoga started.
Hmm.
And then, yeah, I spent 4 years in Mexico in Oaxaca, and then now we're here. So it's been a lot.
Well, you've got the depth, you've got the experience, you've had good teachers, you need to get it out there, get your voice out there.
Yeah, it's been amazing. I'm 46, and I've had an amazing career so far. I mean, I've started when I was 20, so I'm 26 years old, and I still feel like I'm quite young and still trying to figure it all out. It's like at some point, is it 50? Maybe when I hit 50, I'm just gonna be like, oh yeah, I get it now. But it's
Oh,
fun because,
I still feel like I'm a pup and I'm young and I'm still getting better. I'm
right?
61 and
Good
I
for
just
you.
feel like, no, I'm getting better and better in all sorts of aspects.
Yeah, I think so too. Looking good. I'm excited. I have this beautiful space and it's just been really sweet to have the space again and traveling. I'm gonna do some stuff next year and hopefully I'm gonna be in your side of the world. This student is really trying to she kind of wants to open some doors and it's fun to think about. I've never been to Australia, New Zealand, Bali. Yeah. So
They're all
maybe we'll
cool
meet
places.
someday. Wouldn't that be fun? We can do handstands at the beach together.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And make sure we got our cameras set up for it.
Right. It's not about the handstand, you know.
It's the backdrop and what you're wearing.
It's the pants and the playlist, baby.
Oh man, you should see it here in Bali in certain areas where it's just influenced the city. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
You go to a gym, you go in the yoga studios. People have they've got their cameras set up in the filming themselves while they're doing the class, and the teacher allows it. It's just like, what?
Wow. Wow, now
It's
that's a first.
it's crazy. It's crazy, and just everybody has got their tripod and filming themselves. But yeah, I mean, it's the modern way. I mean, if you work remotely, and that's how it works.
Yeah.
So we're a
Well, I
hub
love
for
how
it.
you figured out how to embrace it without losing, the essence of what's actually going on here. And I think maybe that's been some of the resistance of just like, I don't want to spend my time in front of a camera showing people what I can do and talking to nothing. But I see it and I know it's going in that direction. And my first live thing I ever did was in 2017 from Tenerife in the Canary Islands, and I was teaching a class. We had a training happening, and I was like, "Hey guys!" And I was walking through this like beautiful space, and I was still like carrying all this. I just had a baby, like it just was not my best looking time, but like I did it, I really was proud of myself for doing it, and there was like 1,500 views, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing!" And it's kind of activating, and I think that it can really like it drove me for a minute. I was like, "Ooh, this is fun," and then things grow, and but 2020 changed a lot for me personally and professionally, and now you know, it's time to get back in the game. So you've been a huge kind of um I don't know, game changer for me. Just this conversation, super activating. Thank you.
All
You're doing
right.
so good, Mark.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank
You
you.
are. Thank you. Let's stay in touch. I will send you this when I have it all prettied up.
All right. Have we stopped recording now?
Uh, that's that. Hold on.